everybody. So as you can probably tell from my shirt, today's episode we are going to be talking about Joe 90. Yeah, I don't have a Joe 90 tee, so I'm kind of winging it here. As most of you will know, this month Joe 90 celebrates its 50th anniversary. I'm not at all ashamed to say that Joe is definitely one of my favourite Gerry Anderson series of all time, definitely top 5. So this week I just want to kind of talk a little about the show, my own thoughts and feelings on it. As I think I've mentioned before, I first saw the show in 1994 when it was repeated on BBC One. Saturday mornings, I think it's 7:45.
What's a girl to do with football on the horizon? I don't know. Here's Joe 90, that's what I'm going to watch.
So instantly, that sort of set it apart from the others in my mind. Now, there are very few things that can make me want to get out of bed early in the mornings, on a Saturday morning at least. Joe was one of them, absolutely. Even as a kid, not knowing anywhere near as much about the Anderson shows as I do now, I was kind of aware that there was sort of an evolution running through what I'd already seen. Obviously I'd seen Thunderbirds first, then Stingray, then Captain Scarlet. And Captain Scarlet was a huge step forward in the look of these shows, the aesthetics, the design. Everything seemed so much slicker than it had done in the past, and Joe really was like an obvious continuation of that trend. What I love about this show is, although it's a kids show and I was obviously seeing it in a kids slot on CBBC, it didn't talk down to its audience. In fact, surprisingly, it continued that trend that Captain Scarlet set, being absolutely bloodthirsty and violent, and you don't necessarily expect for that to be the case. You could do a spy kid type show without people getting killed every week. I can't think of any other kids shows that would feature an execution scene.
Take aim. Fire!
That's pretty grim for 7:45 in the morning.
Fail, and you will suffer the same fate as the wretch you have just seen executed.
Let's talk about something that a lot of people find very difficult to swallow with this show, and that's the main character himself.
Hello, Uncle Sam. Dad?
I have heard a lot of criticism about this show over the years around the fact that he is a bit of a know-all. I have two responses to that, really. Firstly, yeah, he is there to tell everybody what to do. That's why we're giving him all this knowledge and experience. Also, if you notice, when Joe isn't brained up, as they like to say every so often, very often he suggests things to the grown-ups, and they tell him to shut up.
Just keep out of this, will you, Joe?
Sorry, Dad.
But my biggest rebuttal to the criticisms of Joe as a character is that, just take a look at Joe. There he is. Okay. He's the star of our show. Just imagine how much you would enjoy the show if this kid was the star.
Where am I?
Or this kid.
Gee, Troy.
Or that kid.
All I want is a ride in a spaceship.
Or these kids.
We play at International Rescue all the time.
Yeah.
I think we dodged a bullet there.
Thank you for obliging my son. He works for World Intelligence. You know. Really?
One of my favourite elements of this show is the fact that the regular cast was scaled down considerably from what had gone before in Captain Scarlet and Thunderbirds. We have 4 regular characters, plus an occasional housekeeper lady, Mrs. Harris.
I don't know what they get up to, I'm sure.
That is actually one of the only genuine criticisms I can make about this show, is that female characters barely exist. That's kind of a shame. But it really makes sense, I think, to focus on just these main 4. It brings back kind of the family aspect to the traditional Gerry Anderson setup that hadn't really been there in Captain Scarlet. And it gives the series a really nice tone. The fact that Joe doesn't live in a magnificent secret base, he lives in a nice country cottage, and it's all warm and cosy, and there's a fire blazing away in the corner there.
That's the way we like it, Sam. A combination of the old and the new.
So you get to the birthday, and Joe is thrown a surprise party by his dad, and he doesn't invite any of his school friends. I'm assuming Joe has school friends, he must have someone. Although I'd like to know how he manages to get out of school every week to go and blow up enemy bases and things like that. He invites his 2 spy masters who have kind of taken him on as their own secret killing machine. They reminisce about things that he's done. Okay, that makes sense. But they're recounting stories in which people died. And not only in which people died, but in which Joe is responsible for some of those deaths.
Over here, Coletti.
Say, Joe, do you remember that time you blew that gun runner to pieces with a hand grenade? I would have stuffed it down his trousers if I could have got closer, Uncle Sam. Haha, that's my boy. So the backstory to the series, which is only mentioned briefly in the show, is that Joe is an orphan. He's been adopted by Professor McClane, who has then proceeded to carry out these bizarre experiments, presumably potentially quite dangerous. You know, they're messing with the kid's brain. You have to sort of read into the fact that he's taken on an orphan because, oh well, if I melt the kid's brain, I can just go get another orphan. It's fine, you know, they're 10 a penny, that's fine. But you also have to wonder about the deeper psychological impact on Joe, especially later in life. He's being given someone else's brain pattern every single week. What is that doing to his psyche and his subconscious? There is an episode where they record the brain pattern of someone who has a mental block on a particular issue, and that block is then transferred to Joe. There are scenes where he's like asleep, wearing the glasses. Is he dreaming the dreams of the person who provided the brain pattern? And all of these people provided their brain patterns without consent, that's worth pointing out. But there has to have come a point later in life, probably not too long after the show ended, where Joe started to suffer a little bit. You can imagine that as he grew up, he would want to have his own life. He wouldn't want to necessarily be shackled to this top secret government agency that don't pay him.
But that's life, Joe, in the WIN.
It's not something that you really think about when you're a kid. As an adult, though, there is this gloriously dark side to the show. So yeah, I hope that Joe, who is now 59, going on 60 years old, is having a good life. I hope that he, I hope that he didn't get killed, first off, but also I hope that he isn't in some asylum somewhere, regaling everybody with stories of the time when he was a brain surgeon or a fighter pilot, and they're like, yes, Mr. McClane, yes, come back to bed.
And now I will ask a guard to lock you in a room.
But despite the unintentional subtext that is prevalent throughout the show, it's never stopped me from loving this series. I remember when I was finally able to get hold of the episodes on the tape trading network and then later on the DVDs, it was just so wonderful to finally have them all in the one place. And something that I remember in the run-up to the DVD release was a lot of people going, oh, Joe 90, oh, it's terrible, oh, it's so awful, oh my god. And I would say to them, which episode is it that you saw that you didn't like? Oh, I didn't see any of them. No, it's just, worst show ever. Fact.
Bunch of amateurs.
But I felt like I was the only one who was sticking up for it. I felt like I was the only one who had even seen it and was prepared to say, hang on a second, Project 90, See You Down There, Attack of the Tiger, all of these are great episodes. Why are people not watching this show? And then when the DVDs came out, people finally had a chance to reappraise it. They were like, okay, this is good stuff. If you haven't already picked up the re-released DVD set, I thoroughly recommend it, unless you're waiting for the Blu-rays. And in the meantime, happy birthday, Joe 90, and thanks for taking me along on all 30 of your amazing adventures.
Happy birthday, Joe. Happy birthday.